I literally almost had a heart attack when I first saw this running around on Twitter. This article by the none other infamous CBR is called 10 Ways Dragon Ball Super is Better Than Dragon Ball Z. Now, as somebody who essentially is a Dragon Ball Super fan manga YouTuber, mainly in the Super timeline because that's the one that we're in right now, I have to say that Super gets a lot of things right, adds a lot of new things, and is just an enjoyable watch. But when you put it up to the champ, I'm telling you right now, it is not such a clear-cut winner, and I honestly would not have thought that there were 10 ways that it was. That to me seems entirely too many ways. Maybe 5, but 10? We're gonna go ahead and chop down this article and see exactly what each way is and if it's plausible, if it makes sense or not. Guys, I want you to go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section below and ask yourselves, what do you think Dragon Ball Super does better than Dragon Ball Z? Drop that comment, let's discuss this. Let's jump into this article.
I know you love Dragon Ball, so don't forget to like and subscribe to BlackScape. Turn on all the notifications so you never miss a video. This is Rose, and I love you guys so much, and I can't wait till we hit the 500k mortal plan.
I already know I caught this list lacking. Dragon Ball Super's animation is better, and then the article had the audacity to put Goku versus Vegeta from Dragon Ball Super Superhero. The best parts of Dragon Ball Super Superhero's animation was not anything on Beerus's planet. It was the stuff that was on Earth. It was the fight with Cell Max. It was the fight against the Gammas. Those had huge moments of insane animation that to me, it was breathing life back into anime animation, specifically Dragon Ball, which hasn't been that good. But to say that Dragon Ball Super's animation is better than Dragon Ball Z, I really have to say that is a no for me. Let's see what they say. Given that Dragon Ball Z was first started in 1989, it goes without saying that the standards for animation and anime have increased exponentially since that time. That being the case, Super has taken the action-packed battle that defined the series and brought them to the next level with modern-day animation techniques. Super's vamped-up animation made the action Dragon Ball is known for smoother than ever. Even better, the new animation gave the series' beloved characters a whole new dimension. It sounds like they're specifically targeting Superhero, which again, I don't hate the animation in Superhero. I think a lot of it does work. I think a lot of it looks beautiful. But this is Dragon Ball Super as a whole. You gotta take in the entire anime, and a good portion of the anime, I literally was talking about this in my last video a couple videos ago, the animation is subpar. It is not that good. It doesn't even look that good. That's why there are redraws online and Twitter where people take these scenes, these clips, not just from the beginning of Dragon Ball Super, but any point in Dragon Ball Super, and they redraw it to either make it in their own style or make it look more badass, make it look more like, say, back in Dragon Ball Z, where you had the MORO style being some of the best animation that we've seen in that show. Now granted, Dragon Ball Z did have its fair share of animation that wasn't that good, but there's something to be said about the newer animation versus the older one. The older one just seems to have more grit to it, more impact, more details. The newer one is, in my opinion, a little bit too clean, a little bit too clean cut. That is why we praise episodes where animators like Takahashi animate things that look like the old school Dragon Ball Z. Everything seems to be up against old school Dragon Ball Z. When it comes to the end of the day, I do think that the old school style, the grittiness style that I hope that Dragon Ball comes back with, I think that that style is better looking than the majority of Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Super has too many L's in its animation and episodes to the point where they had to redraw certain episodes, and Dragon Ball Z doesn't have that problem. Fans got to see their favorite villains fighting alongside the heroes. I am not gonna lie, when Frieza was recruited along with 17, I was extremely hyped to see Goku and Frieza teaming up, facing off in a tournament, as opposed to having this constant beef with each other. Even the episodes before where they were fighting was some of the best animation that we've seen in Dragon Ball Super, but at the same time, it was just a great lead up to the fact that they ended up all teaming up against Jiren. But I still think Dragon Ball Z does this better. How does it do it better? Because in Dragon Ball Z, we had villains that ended up fighting with the heroes, and they became legacy characters. in the process, and stayed heroes or stayed anti-heroes. Piccolo, in the very first arc, he is recruited by Goku to save Gohan. Vegeta turns a new leaf on planet Namek, helping the heroes at certain points, but then really turning it around when he goes to Earth. Android 18 is the same way. She has a whole new leaf, whole new character arc in the Boost Saga. 16 turns a leaf and fights along the Z Fighters as well. So you really are just talking about Frieza doing this, which is cool in its own way. But if you really think about it, more villains did this stuff in Dragon Ball Z than Dragon Ball Super. Dragon Ball Z introduced the world to some of the most memorable villains in anime. Through the events of the show, fans got to see some of them turn their lives around and become friends with Goku. In Super, this dynamic is taken to the next level, Tournament of Power, as the fate of the entire universe brings everyone together. There are characters from each arc of Z that have joined the fight to save Universe 7 from erasure in the Tournament of Power. Goku is surrounded by nearly all major antagonists of Z aside from Cell. He is joined by Vegeta, Frieza, Android 17 and 18, even Majin Buu joins the fray. Initially during the preliminary fights, this is the ultimate fan service. Oh, I forgot about Majin Buu. Majin Buu actually fights alongside the heroes at the end of Dragon Ball Z. So basically what you're saying here is that this event happened just one time. I really don't think that this makes Dragon Ball Super better than Z, because I prefer all the events that happened in Dragon Ball Z, because there are way more of them, and they actually ended up turning a new leaf, as opposed to this where Frieza gets his life back and then he comes back and brings Broly back to Earth to cause chaos, and now we have Black Frieza because, you know, Goku couldn't kill Frieza again. I don't know, like, to me it just leaves more of a sour taste in my mouth than anything else. Plus all these characters already fought with Goku. Even 17 fights Cell, Imperfect Cell, at a certain point and tries to team up with Piccolo before Piccolo ends up getting murked. Dragon Ball Super makes characters more powerful than ever. This is where you're going to start getting me, because I believe that this is a huge positive. Let's read the article and see what they are meaning. Z Fighters are already powerful enough to destroy entire planets under the sheer force of their fighting. At the very start of Super, the battle between Goku and Beerus is enough to shake the very universe itself, demonstrating a clear step up in power from level Z. After fighting the strongest fighters in the universe throughout all of Dragon Ball Z, Goku and the Z Fighters have finally established themselves as the universe's greatest warriors. Unfortunately for them, the universe is only the beginning, and Beerus' arrival on Earth really drives the point home early on. Now, I would say this is a huge plus from Dragon Ball Z. Dragon Ball Z, we ended up getting just more elevations of the Super Saiyan, essentially. Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, and then we got, you know, the evil villains. Nobody else was really up to par or could really contend with any of the Saiyan forms, and we, at the time, weren't thinking, oh, Super Saiyan God, oh, Super Saiyan Blue, or Ultra Instinct. We were thinking, okay, the next forms are going to be Super Saiyan 4, because Super Saiyan 4 came in GT, and Super Saiyan 5, 6, 7, 10. We were going to get all these forms. But to me, that was probably the biggest flaw of the ending of Dragon Ball Z, where you just kind of put a number at the end and just create new Saiyan forms, and they could be more and more powerful, but then nobody else had any way of getting stronger. In Super, it's completely different. You have angels, you have gods of destruction, you have Jiren, you have Hit, who is powerful in his own right with his own strength and hacks abilities. Then you have power coming from a lot of the cool contenders in the Tournament of Power. It's not just the Saiyans being powerful, and even them, they get new transformations. They get God, Blue, and Ultra Instinct. We got now Dragon Ball Super's Ultra Ego. The power levels are getting boosted, and to me, Super is 100% better than Dragon Ball Z in this regard, the way that they level up their characters. The only casualty in this is Super Saiyan 3, because Super Saiyan 3 really did not stick around, and its aesthetic did not play any part in any of the new Dragon Ball Super Saiyan forms, besides maybe Ultra Ego's eyebrows. Dragon Ball Super expanded the universe into a multiverse. This I'm on the fence with, because I feel to have a multiverse is exciting. You have to use it correctly. In my opinion, Dragon Ball Multiverse, the fan manga, uses these qualities expertly, uses the fact that there is an abundance of different types of villains and heroes and universes and types of strong opponents, and uses them really effectively in that universe. While in this, we really only see Universe 6 at the time, and then at the same time, we only get the characters in the Tournament of Power. Besides that, we're basically pigeonholed in Universe 7, and there really isn't anything exciting coming from the other universes. And we've already seen all the other characters from the other universes, and to me, the only real exciting ones are from Jiren's universe and Universe 6 still. Everybody else is still not as exciting. So what did they say? Being that Beerus is a god of destruction and the Z Fighters are not capable of literally shaking the universe with their attacks, the natural next progression for the series was to take it to the multiverse. This new level for the series sets the stage for even greater threats and even stronger enemies than Goku and his friends even wanted to imagine. When looking back on the events of Dragon Ball Z, the world-threatening enemies Goku tackled seem small when compared to the multiverse trouble. After all, Zeno could erase the entire multiverse with no effort. So that's another huge problem. Zeno is by far one of the most annoying characters in Dragon Ball, and to me, I really hope that they pull back from him a little bit and focus on everything else. He's just not exciting, has no character development, is essentially himself a Zeno button. That's all he is. There's nothing interesting there with the character. So I do think it's cool that Dragon Ball Super has expanded the universe and giving us so much more. So in that level, I do say baseline, it is better than Z in that regard. But the problem is that I think that Dragon Ball Super hasn't been living up to its potential and using these characters and all these different new universes to the best of their abilities. They have not done that yet. Okay, well, I can just say right here that this is 100% a W for Dragon Ball Super, and I do think that a evil Goku variant, they had the sprinkles of that in Dragon Ball Z, with Goku being evil when he first came to planet and hitting his head. You had Bardock, which was an evil Saiyan. You had the evil Saiyans. You had Turles, which was a whole movie unto himself. And yet they still never really dove into an evil Goku storyline. Even though I've been talking about this recently, and I honestly wanted Goku Black to be Goten, I do think that the Goku Black series is, in its saga, is one of the best in Dragon Ball, period. It's one of the most exciting in both the manga and the anime. It has a lot of mystery. It feels like old Dragon Ball, and I feel like they really pulled out all the stops for this series, so I don't really have to read everything that says here. I'm telling you right now, this is 100% correct. Number 6 is a dub for the article. Fans got to see their favorite characters all grown up. I am gonna say no. No, 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 no. We only got to see, what, Pan is probably the most successful at growing up. She was a baby, now she's a toddler or whatever, and she's running in preschool, running around and kicking ass. She's cool. That's about it. Everybody else, Goten and Trunks, just leveled up, and in my opinion, the new Trunks, the older Trunks, doesn't even resemble the younger one. So I feel like they messed it up there. Gohan went through a time skip again, where 2 time skips where he doesn't even train. He went through the original one where Frieza kicked his ass, and now he went through a Dragon Ball Super Superhero one where the message of that movie was that he needed to train again. So no, that time skip did not work. In my opinion, Goku stays the same, Vegeta stays the same besides them training more, Piccolo stays the same besides him getting Orange Piccolo now. They're not really growing up. They're not characters that are really growing up, in my opinion, and becoming really, really cool and badass. Even Trunks, in my opinion, gets a level down because he was really cool, the design and everything, in Dragon Ball Z, and then we get Dragon Ball Super where he's like 90 pounds and just not as cool. That's my opinion. Throughout Dragon Ball Z, fans got to watch as some of their favorite characters grew older and had families. Super takes this trend and brings it even further to show what happened to the Z Fighters after the events of the first series ended. It's heartwarming to see characters such as Vegeta settling into home life and Piccolo caring for Gohan's daughter. What's more, new characters such as Vegeta, Bulma's daughter, Bulla are introduced, and Trunks and Mai even develop an interesting relationship. You already lost me with that last sentence. Yes, Vegeta being a homebody, enjoying life on Earth, and loving his family is something that I am glad to see. I guess he did grow up in a sense, but the whole Trunks and Mai thing, nope. Bulla, I can take it or leave it at this point because she's just a baby essentially, and she's just a little girl in new manga. So to me, no, this does not make Dragon Ball Super better than Dragon Ball Z. Ultra Instinct saw Goku's most awesome transformation yet. I'm not even going to read this part because I 100% agree with it, and I think that it is true. Ultra Instinct is by far one of the coolest transformations since Super Saiyan. I would say it goes Super Saiyan, Ultra Instinct, Super Saiyan 3, Super Saiyan God, and Blue at the end. I think that's my hierarchy of these cool transformations, or what makes them cool, or whatever the case is. Ultra Instinct is just different. The only thing that's a problem with Ultra Instinct is that we don't really get a solid, good explanation for it in Dragon Ball Super's anime, and we get an even more terrible explanation for it in the manga. But what it does, how it works, and all that stuff, to me, that's it is one of the best transformations, and it is something that's really, really cool and puts Super over Dragon Ball Z. And at the same time, you also have to think, as somebody who watched the premiere of these episodes when he went into Omen, then he went into Ultra Instinct, I watched it in Japanese, and when it first came out, and it was fucking awesome, and the hype level around it, to me, yes, this was the pinnacle, in my opinion, of Dragon Ball Super. It's really hard to argue this one. Vegeta earned his rightful place as a co-star. Vegeta's been a co-star since Dragon Ball Z's Android Saga. He's the one that we follow halfway through that whole thing, and then we follow him halfway through Buu Saga, where he's basically, you know, has a whole story arc about him specifically. Vegeta is the Prince of all Saiyans, being that he is literally royalty. Fans would expect him to get that kind of treatment. Unfortunately, in Dragon Ball Z, he was often left as a side character with some great moments, but who generally yielded everything up to Kakarot. He still does. In Super, however, Vegeta gets a much more central role, and fans were happy to see him take center stage more often. It was no longer Goku as king with Vegeta as prince, but rather two kings side by side with mutual respect and equal power, as true rivals should be. That part where they're equal in power and rivals, I do like that, and that is something that is more hemmed in Dragon Ball Super, because remember in Z, even though they fought in a really cool battle between Super Saiyan 2s and the Majin Vegeta, we got the revelation that Goku was holding back. He was Super Saiyan 3 capable the entire time. So in this case, I understand it, but there is not enough to prove that this is more than what he got in Dragon Ball Z, in my opinion, because in Dragon Ball Z, really only in the first arc, Vegeta's not there. And granted, in all of Super, Vegeta's there, but it's still the story of a king versus a prince. It's not two kings, in my opinion. It's not two kings. It is a prince that follows up and gets the sloppy seconds that Goku has. Or it is a prince that essentially fights the main character all the time, or fights the main villain all the time, loses, and then lets the king come in and clean up. That's essentially what ends up happening all the freaking time. The Tournament of Power is an epic tournament arc. I'm a little bit biased on this one, so let's read what they say first. Tournament arcs in shonen anime have become a staple of the genre for obvious reasons. These kind of arcs take powerful characters who have developed throughout a series and pit them against one another in fights that fans would have only dreamed of. Tournament arcs give the writers an excuse to demonstrate supporting characters' unique strengths. Dragon Ball was the king of this plot device, and Super's Tournament of Power arc really reinforces why the Dragon Ball franchise does tournaments the best. There has likely never been a tournament arc in anime with higher stakes of losing than the multiversal extinction, and the Tournament of Power makes this its central plot point. Okay, I understand this, and I think that I 100% agree with this one, because the Tournament of Power arc is by far the swan song of Dragon Ball Super. It is the pinnacle of what Dragon Ball Super becomes at the end of its run. And to me, I do think that it is the best that the Dragon Ball Super entire anime has come up with when it came to the original run. But there are a lot of things that don't play as well. A lot of characters that are really annoying. If you guys remember Ribrianne, yeah. I think this is enough to say that's better than Z, because Z doesn't really have an arc like this. They have a tournament that gets cut short and nobody gets to fight. So this is kind of the tournament that we wanted to see, Goku versus Vegeta. And even though we don't really get that either in this, I still think that this is like what I wanted as a 10-year-old after watching the Buu Saga and realizing that there was really no fight other than Goten and Trunks and Android 18 versus Hercules. So I do think this is this one makes sense to me. So you're aiming at the right direction. Universal hierarchy is more established than ever. The problems with Zeno interfering and Whis interfering is just so prevalent in this that, to me, it's almost at the detriment of Dragon Ball Super that this is this whole situation right here, where these gods and angels can do whatever they want, they can help whenever they want, and really have no backlash for it. You can always have Whis reverse time. You can always have Whis give you special training to unlock something new. You can always press the Zeno button to hang out with Zeno and bring him to a villain. You know, if you still have the Zeno button, you can, you know. So these things are, even Beerus, he is a destroyer that should be intervening more. On the opposite side, he doesn't intervene at all, ever. Never intervenes. He's supposed to be doing the job. Whis intervenes more. With the introduction of the characters like the Gods of Destruction, the Angels, and Zeno, the Dragon Ball mythos has grown even fuller than ever. Not only are the battles even higher stakes, but Goku and his friends still see how far they have to go in power to pose the slightest threat to beings like Angels or Zeno. Providing this system of gods and angels to the story also adds a level of depth to Dragon Ball's world that the show never had before. It offers newfound implications to the actions that the main characters take, with the almost religious undertones that can lead to an interesting new direction for the series moving forward. I think that the biggest benefit to this is the fan mangas, fan animations, and the stories that fans make surrounding all these angels and gods and stuff like that. I think that's probably the biggest pro to this. But you know what? I'm going to give it to you, because even Dragon Ball Z had the hierarchy with the Kais and Otherworld. They had a little bit of a system too, but it was more based on this universe, not the entire multiverse cosmos as a whole. So I do have to give it to them. I think that this is correct. I think that putting this at number 1, I don't know. I think that I would put maybe Goku Black, or making characters more powerful than ever. I think I would put that at number 1, not this. But I do see where they're coming from. And when it comes to the entire list as a whole, I think it's a wash. I think it's a lot of things that Dragon Ball Z does better, and a lot of things. I think it's 50-50, honestly. So I think they've failed at this list. Like I said, there should only be 5 things: Power, Goku Black, Ultra Instinct, and Tournament of Power. Those are my 5 things that make sense out of here. Let me know which one you guys got, which one makes the most sense for you, that Dragon Ball Super does better than Dragon Ball Z. This is going to be BlackScape signing off. Take care, guys.
Subscribe for more content.